from Las Vegas. This week from New York City on Broadway, it's the Merv Griffin Show. Now, here I come. That's really nice. That's nice. Thank you very much. Save that. No, listen, save it. Or are you moving the air around in here? Lordy, what a day in New York. And no kneeling when I come out. That embarrasses me. Well, today, some extraordinary entertainers will walk on this stage and join us in saluting an extraordinary name in Broadway musical theater history. Our guest of honor today is the composer of such classic musicals as Gypsy, Funny Girl, Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, Bells Are Ringing, shows which gave the world great songs that we're still singing, like The Party's Over, People, Everything's Coming Up Roses, Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend, many, many, many more. A man whose music for Hollywood and Broadway over nearly 50 years has made him a theatrical legend. Mr. Jule Styne is our guest today. Now, I mentioned some of the Broadway show tunes that you know, and that Jule Styne is certainly famous for. He produced songs for the movies like Time After Time, It's Magic, Three Coins in the Fountain, I'll Walk Alone. He's written some 1,400 songs in all, and just wait till you hear who's here today to perform some of them for you. Jule Styne had an important part in the early career of my first guest, show business giant. He produced the show which assured this man of Broadway stardom. The big hit from that musical was Too Close for Comfort. The show, of course, was Mr. Wonderful, and I think that appropriately sums up this very special entertainer. Mr. Wonderful himself, Sammy Davis Jr. is here. Isn't that great? Now, to have a hit musical on Broadway, it helps to have the right creative chemistry. And just listen to the credits of this classic Broadway musical. Producers, David Merrick and Leland Hayward. Book by Arthur Lawrence. Music by Jule Styne. Lyrics by Stephen Sondheim. Choreography by Jerome Robbins. There was no way it could miss, I think. Especially since the show was Gypsy, and the star is the first lady of the musical theater. She is here today. The one and only Ethel Merman is here. Now, as a rehearsal pianist for the show Funny Girl, this next young man every day got to play such Jule Styne songs as People and Don't Rain on My Parade for the star of that show, Barbra Streisand. The show which made her a superstar. This young man met with Streisand again, and this time to play the song he wrote for her called The Way We Were, which eventually won him an Oscar. He's also the composer of such Broadway shows as A Chorus Line and the current smash musical on Broadway, They're Playing Our Song. Marvin Hamlisch is our guest. Well, from now on, for the rest of this show, the music you hear will be that of Jule Styne, prolific fashion, despite the fact that he's in his 70s. I wonder if he knows that even. God, it might be a terrible shock when he hears that. I am 70. But just about everyone involved with Broadway and motion picture musicals has worked with him in some way, and his life story is told in this interesting new book called Jule, the story of composer Jule Styne. Ladies and gentlemen, here's Mr. Jule Styne.
There is
I'm not even going to talk to him yet about his music. There's a story in this book that I can't even believe. Tell him the story of Al Capone. Not the whole story, but I mean...
Well, it was in, back in Chicago. I had a band in the Variety House, the Granada Theater, and my trombone player came up to me one day. He says, Mr. Brown would like to see you. He says, it's at the Metropole Hotel, and I went to the Metropole Hotel, and there was 2 rows of guards who frisked me. And I figured this Mr. Brown is something else than I expected to see. And I walked up to the 4th floor, and there I met Mr. Brown. When he turned around, it was Al Capone. His name was Mr. Al Brown and Al Capone. And he said, you see, I'm having a festivity for a whole week before the Dempsey-Tunney fight at Soldiers Field. And I have a very distinguished guest list. Judges,
right.
Senators, federal judges, mayors,
right.
And their wives.
Right.
And he says, and I hear you're a pretty good kid, but I'll tell you how I want this show. Every night a different headliner. I want Harry Richmond, that time was the headliner, yeah. The Duncan sisters, right. Belle Baker, whatever. But he says it opens with me conducting Rhapsody in Blue. I looked at him, I didn't laugh. I said, yes, sir. I said, yes, sir.
You didn't even say, what will you conduct it with?
Nothing. I said nothing. I was with him all the way. I'm on his side. And he said, well, you don't believe I know how it goes. Huh. I said, I believe. You wouldn't ask me if you didn't believe. No, he says, wait a minute. It starts with a clarinet. I said, you know it, of course. He says, wait a minute, kid. Before I conduct it, can you play it? I said, yes, I can play it. He said, well, you'll play, the orchestra will play, and I'll conduct. And that's the way. No more rehearsal. He says, and now, ladies and gentlemen, the Rhapsody in Blue by George Gershwin, conducted by yours truly. And he turned around, and we played Rhapsody in Blue. But from that night on, I played all the mob joints, my band. We had... I was okay. That was my Capone thing. Oh, Chicago. We had all the great jazz players in Chicago. I played with the Ben Pollack band. It had Benny Goodman and Glenn Miller and Jack Teagarden.
You're classically trained, aren't you?
Well, I started out being classically trained. That was the cause of all my years of searching and downfall. Yes, I was a concert pianist. I won a Mozart scholarship at the age of 8. When I was 11, I was told by a great teacher that my hand was much too small to ever conquer the important works as a pianist. Gee. And so in high school, I discovered Irving Berlin and Alexander's Ragtime Band. I became an instant smash. From then on, I decided playing in bands. And I went on playing bands, and I coached girls, all in search of finding my place. What I wanted to be, I couldn't be. What I wanted to be when I was 8 years old, that's what I wanted to do. And all my life, Merv, you won't believe this, Sammy doesn't know it either. You know, it wasn't until Gypsy that I realized that I was any good. I thought that
all those hits?
I thought all those hit songs, I was getting by, and they'll find me out sooner or later. And I had to do a lot of things, like when I was in analysis, for instance, I went to find out why I gambled, and I did find out part of it. And the part of it was I was so insecure about my work that I thought if I bet $500 on a horse, that made me a good songwriter. If I bet $2, I was a lousy songwriter. This is how sick it was. But I know that I'm pretty good now.
And you'll hear how pretty good he is right after this commercial. Jule Styne. And now at the piano, the man himself, Mr. Jule Styne. Ladies and gentlemen.
Well, as I told you before, when I made the transition from my concert piano days to popular music and I became an instant smash playing for dancing in a school auditorium, a fellow asked me, would I write a song for a school show? And this is early Jule Styne, age 14. Whatever happened to the guy with the polka-dotted tie? He could sing so very high. He used to sing top tenor in the old quartet. Then he met a soprano from the Metropolitan Opera. They sang together for a while. Then she marched him down the aisle. He surrendered to her smile. They settled down in a town that isn't on the map. And they lived together very happily ever after. And that's what happened to the guy with the polka-dotted tie and the girl that he met at the Met. For this, I received an Academy Award. I failed 7 times and got it on the 8th time. That's why I always play number 8 in the numbers game. You see, my father never accepted my songwriting career because he didn't pay for that. He paid for my piano lessons. And he could never imagine how I could become a songwriter. Even when I sent him records by Sammy Davis or Tommy Dorsey or whatever, he'd always say, "I don't hear you play." He could never get over the fact that I didn't play on those records. I wrote the song. You see, my father played piano for... If my father were here tonight, whoever he's sitting next to, he would say, you ought to hear him play when he was 8 years old. This is what he played for. That's enough for my father. But the next song is an important song. As it's important when you write a song and it becomes the identification with a certain artist. And this song, indeed, is played on every time Miss Barbra Streisand walks on a stage.
Songs, certainly to your life. Sammy, as everybody in New York City knows, is out at the Westbury Music Fair in Westbury, Long Island, and has a long trip out there and a curtain in about an hour and a half, and it'll take you an hour and 35 minutes, 6 hours if you stop to get gas on the way. But there are some songs that we're going to do a lot of them at the last part of the show, but Sammy has some he loves.
Yes, the association that Julie has with a mutual friend of ours, and certainly more than a friend of mine. He's like an older brother. I speak of Frank Sinatra. And his help, his encouragement to me, and my being a fan in the old days. Then one day I got to thinking about the man who was responsible for writing most of the songs when he got his foot in the door in Hollywood, Sinatra, that is. And this is one that's always been sort of a favorite. Do you want me to use that thing?
Sure, whatever you want.
Okay. too easily. I fall in love too fast. I fall in love too terribly hard for love to ever last. My heart should be well schooled, 'cause I've been fooled in the past, and still I fall in love too easily. I fall in love. And this was the Sinatraism of the day at the time. Too fast.
Frank was responsible for a lot of wonderful things that you did. He can do no wrong. You know, he calls me maybe once every 3 years. I tend all his marriages. And he, in his first picture, a movie called Anchors Away, the brass of the top brass of MGM said right in front of him, he said, Frank, you can have Cole Porter, Jerome Kern. Frank lit a cigarette as though he was going to go in to hang my chairs out to dry or something. And he says, fellas, you don't understand. If Jule Styne doesn't write the score, I don't do the movie. So he was there when I needed him the most.
You mentioned
a
a song just then, Julie, that is, I suppose every composer has his one song that's a crying in your drink at midnight kind of song after the lady has left.
Yeah.
And you have the classic of all time. And I dare you to remember the verse.
Are you joking me? Are you joshing, my dear lad?
All right.
Okay?
Tally-ho.
Not to witty.
Good on. Silly putty.
The touch I carry is handsome. It's worth its heartache in ransom. And when the twilight steals, I know how that lady in the harbor feels. When I want rain, I get sunny weather. I'm just as blue as the sky. Since love is gone, can't pull myself together. I guess I'll hang my tears out to dry. Friends ask me out, I tell them I'm busy. Must get a new alibi. I stay at home and ask myself, where is she? Guess I'll hang my tears out to dry. Dry little teardrops, my little teardrops, hanging on a string of dreams. Fly little memories, my little memories, reminder of our crazy schemes. Somebody said just for forget about her. I gave that treatment a try.
And strangely enough, I got along without her.
I'll make you sing. Then one day she passed me right by. Oh, well, I guess I'll hang my tears out to dry. Double on the rocks for the two of us.
Sammy's on his way to Westbury, Long Island, with our thanks and our love. Thank you, Sammy. Sammy Davis. We'll be right back, and the great Ethel Merman will join Jule Styne. She's generally acknowledged to be the most illustrious musical comedy star of all time. Here is the dynamic stage performer in the business. Here's the great Ethel Merman.
Thank you very much. I'd like to sing a song for you that Julie wrote for me for Gypsy. We have doctored it up a little bit, but I think you'll recognize it. You can stand on any corner of a city and watch the crowds passing by. Make a mental note of the people you meet. Take a second look at the man in the street. Take a third look and you'll beat a retreat. You can have 'em, I don't want 'em, not I. Some people can get a thrill knitting sweaters and sitting still. That's okay for some people who don't know they're alive. Some people can thrive and bloom, living life in a living room. That's okay for some people of 105, but I at least gotta try. When I think of all the sights that I gotta see yet, all the places I gotta play, all the things that I gotta be yet, come on, Papa, what do you say? Some people can be content playing bingo and paying rent. That's peachy for some people, for some humdrum people to me. But the happiest of people and the friendliest of people are the people who need people. They're the luckiest people in the world. That's okay for some people who don't know they're alive. But I at least gotta try. When I think of all the sights that I gotta see at all the places I gotta play, all the things that I gotta be in, come on, what do you say? Mama, don't just stand in my way. I'll never settle down and go to pot in some one-horse town. That's PG for some people, for some humdrum people to be. But some people,
Ethel Merman. Hey. I never understand why you hold back like that.
Well,
You just let it all out.
I don't mean to. It just happens that way. I don't know.
You still haven't taken a lesson? You still can't sight read?
I should start at this point in my life to take lessons.
Don't do it. But
No.
besides this appearance here today for Jule Styne, I gotta tell you that as I left Hollywood, 30 people came up and said, have you heard, because they know we're good friends and that I'm a great admirer and seen everything she's done, said, have you heard about Ethel Merman? And I said, oh my God,
now?
has she taken over that hospital where she works in the gift shop? And they said, no, Ethel has gone disco.
Yeah.
And her album is coming out, and they say the word around Hollywood is it is the wildest album ever produced, and you're in it, you know.
Yeah.
Roses is in it.
It's all, it's my big show tunes in disco tempo.
And
Yeah.
they say
Yeah.
it's on A&M Records. It is to die
Yeah,
to hear
Peter
it.
Metz did all the arrangements, produced it and directed it, did a magnificent job. And to hear these songs, like Everything's Coming Up Roses, Julie, and even Some People in disco, you're going to flip. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Not angry. You're going to love
Oh,
it.
he's going
No,
to
I
love
know.
it. Oh, he's
Sure.
going to love it. Yeah,
Oh,
sure.
boy.
Yeah.
But then you always were disco.
No. Oh, no.
You always had that beat. You were the first to sing, I got rhythm.
Oh, where you hear that?
God, I did
where
that
you hear
well.
that in disco?
Huh?
Where you hear that in disco?
Is that in disco,
yeah,
too?
but it starts off in a sway tempo. It starts off like a ballady,
Yeah.
and it's a sway dance tempo, and then he goes.
Oh,
then he goes
boy.
into disco.
You'll be opening at Studio 54, will you?
I may close it, too.
We'll come back and talk about Ethel Merman and her wonderful relationship with Jule Styne. On a business level, that is. Promotional consideration. So here's the award-winning composer whose newest work is a smash hit right now on Broadway. It's titled They're Playing Our Song. Of course, he's responsible for the music of the big hit Chorus Line and the movie The Sting, numerous other works. But his first job in the theater was with Jule Styne. And I'm sure Julie is delighted he's able to join our salute today. Here's composer Marvin Hamlisch. Marvin? Gypsy by Marvin. Do you remember first working with Julie? Funny
Yes,
girl.
yeah, yes, the first show, yes. Funny girl. A strange experience for me because I was a composer, you know? And you know how it is when you're young, all you want to do is compose in your life, right? And so you want to compose, and I had worn out, I always tell Julie, I always wear out my Gypsy record, you know? I mean, I think it's one of the greatest scores ever. And so here, all of a sudden, I get this chance to be a rehearsal pianist on a show for this man, Jule Styne, whose records I keep, you know, there's another one, boom, you know? And I had envisioned him one certain way, you know? Because, you know, it's a kind of a, I don't think you ever exactly know what a composer is going to look like and stuff, you know? And I had auditioned for the man who did the vocal arrangements on the show, Buster Davis. I auditioned for him, and I kind of passed that first one, you know? Now comes the first day, you know, and there is, I remember there was, because you mentioned Peter Matz, and there was Streisand in there, you know, and I walk in, and I'm looking, you know, around, and all these people around there, and there he is. There is the man, you know? And I mean, he's as lovable, and as likable, and just very jovial. Hey, hello, hello, you know, stuff like that. And I'm walking in like, you know, I'm already doing my Juilliard test. Okay, D flat, I know how many flats, I know it, okay, here we go. You know? I'm ready, anything. And it was a strange thing because I kept wanting to show him songs. The one thing he couldn't care about at that time was showing
your
him
songs.
But I said, hey, you know, this might work real great, you know?
Yeah.
And the story of Funny Girl is a strange story because that show went through a lot of changes, a lot of different people in it, a lot of different thoughts on it, a lot of troubles out of town, you know? And you see, for instance, a scene, let's say, I remember particularly Sadie, Sadie, which was a song that was not in originally. And the second act started out, I remember, and they were in trouble and they needed something, and all of a sudden they needed something, and where do you turn, you know? Then you turn to the composer and say, you've got to give us something, you know? And then he hands you back something like a showstopper called Sadie, Sadie. I mean, those kind of things, to be able to have the overview that Jule Styne has of his shows and of his work, to be able to say, this is what it needs right here, this is what we've got to have, and then to go out and write it is very special talent, you know?
Tribute.
Yes,
Marvin.
he's wonderful. He's the best, you know?
Thank you. We'll come back. Marvin Hamlisch. Our salute to Jule Styne would not be complete without the addition of my next guest. For with him, they've written such memorable shows as Bells Are Ringing, Do, Re, Mi, and Peter Pan. They've also collaborated on other hit musicals, including Singing in the Rain, and most recently, the Tony Award-winning On the 20th Century. Here are Betty Comden and Adolph Green.
Well, the very first show we did with Jule Styne was a review called Two on the Aisle, and it starred Bert Lahr and Dolores Gray.
Yes, actually, we had started writing the show with an entirely different lady in mind. That was Lena Horne. Now, here's one of the numbers that we originally wrote for Lena. And it's a tragic, soul-searing, heart-rending torch ballad called If.
Joe, where you going?
Leave me alone, will ya?
Is it another woman?
Nah, shut up.
There he goes as usual, my man, breaking my foolish heart. I really don't know what to do about him. I've told myself I've got to do without him. There he goes as usual, my man, tearing my heart apart. He's made my life a mess. I've got to do this, I guess. Goodbye, Joe. From here I kiss you. Goodbye, Joe. I hope I don't miss you. Bang! Goodbye, Joe. If you had been on the square and had treated me fair, we'd have not had a tiff. If you had not said I should go and jump right off the nearest cliff. If you had stayed off the the make, and you just hadn't taken to coming home stiff. If I had not smelled perfume with a nasty, unfamiliar whiff, I'm gonna miss you, baby. Things could have been terrific. What's the diff? If you had not had the cheek to stay out for a week, saying back in a jiff. If you had not such a two-timing guy. If you weren't, if you hadn't, if you didn't, if you weren't, if you hadn't, if you didn't, but you have and you were and you when you did, and so goodbye. If I had not seen you take Geraldine on the lake in your flat-bottom skiff. If you had not found Sue with your arms around her bear midriff. If I had not seen you pen sexy letters to Gwen in your own hieroglyph. If you had not left me home and you had 2 seats for South Pacific. I'm gonna miss you, baby. You were too darn prolific. What's the diff? If you had not such a hound who when game was around always picked up the sniff. If you had not such a two-timing guy. If you weren't. If you hadn't, if you didn't, if you weren't, if you hadn't, if you didn't, but you have and you were and you when you did, and so goodbye. This number is from a show that was perhaps one of the happiest experiences we had working with Julie, Peter Pan, starring Mary Martin and Cyril Richard. And here's Adolph to do Captain Hook's Waltz.
At last I have reached the peak. My infamy reeks to the very heavens. Gather round, ye scurvy sea dogs, and tell me, who was Nero? Nobody. Who was Jack the Ripper? Nobody. Who was Sweeney Todd, the demon barber of Fleet Street? Nobody. Who's the swiniest swine in the world? Captain Hook. Captain Hook. Who's the dirtiest dog in this wonderful world? Captain Hook. Captain Hook. Captain of villainy, murder and loot. Eager to kill any who says that my hook isn't cute. It's cute! Who's the slimiest rat in the pack? Captain Hook. Captain Hook. Who's unlovable, who's unlivable, whose existence is just unforgivable, who would stoop to the cheapest and lowest of tricks in the book. Tricks in the book. Blimey, slimy Captain Hook. Get around, you filthy swine, and tell me, who's the filthiest, the filthiest, the scummiest, the eeliest, and the doggiest, the doggiest, and the creepiest creep in the world. Captain Hook, Captain Hook. Who's dispensable, reprehensible, whose behavior is quite indefensible, who's the cruelest, crummiest, crookedest, creepiest crook, crookedest crook. What a prize, what a joy, Mrs. Hook's little baby boy. The scourge of the sea, just little old me. Captain Hook, 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 Hook.
Now, a little ditty from a show which we did with Julie, a song which we love, from Do Re Mi.
Make someone happy. Make just one someone happy. Make just one heart, the heart you sing to.
One smile that cheers you, one face that lights when it nears you, one man you're everything to.
Fame, if you win it, comes and goes in a minute. Where's the real stuff in life to cling to?
Love is the answer. Someone to love is the answer.
Once you found him, build your world around him. Make someone happy. Make just one someone happy. And you will be happy too.
Betty Comden, Adolph Green, and Jule Styne at the piano. You're right. Come on, I'll put you on the other side of Betty here. Well,
Where do you want me? I'll go over there.
On account of
do we have a choreographer in the house? Oh, yeah, on account of, oh, yes, yeah. Okay. Julie, you're back here. Do you think we wouldn't save
remember
a
you.
seat? I want to know what Steinese is.
Steinese?
Yeah.
Steinese is a language that Julie alone speaks and understands. And we've had many a session with him, and everybody who's worked with him knows about it. It's at the end of it, however, it all seems to make sense in some funny way. For example,
Is he under pressure when he uses it?
no, anytime this could happen.
At any time,
At
a
any time.
Steinese could
And
come
it's the
out.
most relaxed. For example, you might ask him a question about theater, and you say, well, what is theater dynamics, Julie? And he'd say, well, dynamics is, well, not fast or too slow, but in between. People won't sit if you don't, I mean, the pace has to, because all together, but when it finally adds up, I mean, it has to build and build, but then, of course, not too slow, not too fast, but just all together, and it adds up to a great thing. Let's have a cup of coffee, Dorothy.
Oh, here it comes.
No, I speak actually in shorthand. Oh. You see, what I say that's 5 sentences back. I'm on sentence 12, right? I think sentence 4. But Ethel got to know my shorthand. She patiently understood. But after all, nothing really matters how one speaks anyhow.
Right.
But I'm not as bad as that, Betty.
Oh, Julie, I apologize.
It
The
doesn't matter
thing
what
is,
one speaks,
no.
it's what one produces,
And
and that speaks for itself
when it
all
adds
the
up,
time.
it's absolutely brilliant. That's what I mean. Even, coming through, there's something marvelous at the end of it. It makes a great deal of sense. That's absolutely true.
I want to make sure I hold this book up
Yeah.
again because there's so many warm and wonderful moments in this book. Julie.
I know,
But-
well, Marvin was talking about what Julie meant to him,
Yeah.
and I know for Adolph and me, it was the opening up also of a whole new world. We had done a couple of shows, and we didn't know Julie very well, but we were introduced to him and met him, and it was for Two on the Aisle. We didn't know how we'd get along. We sort of thought we came from two different worlds. So Julie was already a legendary figure. He had 1 million hits, 6 out of 10 hit tunes on the hit parade every week. And we came from a whole other world. And with him, of course, we had hit songs and great successes.
Don't tell him everything.
and
It's in the
wonderful
book.
things.
She's not telling the ending.
But we just had the best time.
We're just
the
reading
best,
the last chapter. The whole front part of it's on the show.
the best times in our lives we've had with Julie.
But plus, you came out of a wonderful life of the bistros of New York, where the three of you, and I'm talking, of course, the great Judy Holliday, was with Comden and Green in presenting musical numbers in reviews. Yeah. Oh, Lordy.
Merv, I have just one thing to say. I forgot I made a faux pas tonight. I never forget. I'm one of the few guys that doesn't forget. You see,
You didn't
a
write one of
tune.
those songs?
No, I wrote everything.
Oh.
A tune is just a tune. And then when you get lyrics, it becomes a song. And I've been blessed by having great, great lyric writers. As you heard Miss Merman sing, she sang Sondheim and part of Bob Merrill. You heard Comden and Green. And there are other fellows like Sammy Kahn and E.Y. Harburg. and Leo Robin, and for them, they made my life possible.
Phyllis Newman will be out here right after this commercial break. The woman about to join us is one of my favorite guests. We've been friends some time. She's a veteran. Well, she can't be, she's too young. But she is a veteran of Broadway, stage. She's a Tony Award winner for her fine performance in Jule Styne's Subways Are for Sleeping. Soon she'll be opening in her own new musical. And I've heard excerpts from it. It is excellent. It's titled The Woman, is it The Mad Woman?
Yes,
The Mad Woman of Central Park West. God, we lived on that street. I think I knew her. Yeah. It's going to open at the 22 Steps on Broadway. Ladies and gentlemen, would you greet Phyllis Newman?
Phyllis?
It's the first time I've seen you at half-mast. Very pretty, though.
No reason. Everybody's fine.
Do you know the man on your left?
Yes, this is my very own husband.
That's right.
Nobody else's.
That me?
And has he been kept out many nights writing till all hours by the man we're honoring today?
He's been kept
And
out.
this woman who most people think is married to Adolph.
Yeah,
Betty
this
Upton.
woman and Marvin, they think he's married to Adolph, and Ethel was married to Marvin, and you're married to Julie. It's a whole one thing. I want to talk about Julie, but a whole other, if I can, for a second, something
Right.
I don't think anyone's talked about, and that is how attractive he is to women and vice versa.
Oh?
Yeah, I mean this in the best sense. Julie, I've known for many, many years. He gave me one of my very first jobs in a show called First Impressions, and his vitality, his zest for life, he is a life enhancer. He is crazy about girls, and girls are crazy about him, and I haven't heard anybody mention that. Is that
well,
true or false?
That's, there's a little craziness just there.
Yeah.
Well, Phyllis Newman recreating her musical great moment in Subways Are for Sleeping right now. Here's Phyllis Newman.
Thank you. I think I should just tell you again that this is a story of a beauty contest loser. It happens today just the way it happened then. And this is a girl who's all alone in her room in nothing but a bath towel so that they can't evict her. And a guy who's with her in the room says, "What happened? You know, what happened? Why did you lose?" And this is her story. Please. I was a shoe-in, a shoe-in, a shoe-in winner from Mississippi, back there where I come from. Not Massachusetts, not Minnesota, but Mississippi. There I was born, one frosty morning, right around dawn. They said, "My, oh my, but this baby's so mighty pretty. Sure as you're born, she'll wind up in Atlantic City." I growed up and showed up, all blowed up in all the right directions. Won the local contests, Miss Watermelon, Miss Cotton Blossom, Miss Southern Comfort, trophies galore, yes, by the score, oh, so much more. They said, "My, oh my, she's accomplished as well as pretty. Show as you're born, she'll be queen in Atlantic City." Things were fairly skipping and the honeysuckle dripping when I left my dear old mammy side. I went in with my singing, dancing, and reciting. They said, "My, she's so exciting. She's Miss Jackson City's pride." I was a shoe-in, a shoe-in, a shoe-in winner from Mississippi, but those awful judges made some suggestion, a proposition. I told them no, one after another. "I'll have you horse-whipped good by my brother. Don't you forget, sir, I have a brother." I tossed out, I forced out, I lost out on Atlantic City. Fame may be nice, not at that price, no, I wouldn't pay it. Dragging to shame my family name, no, I'd not betray it. One word I mean could make me queen, no, I wouldn't say it. Would not say yes, 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 yes. Would not say yes. I was a shoe-in, oh, mister, you should have seen my act. My act was terrific. You see, the announcement came over the loudspeaker, And now presenting Miss Martha Vale in a musical dramatic playlet written and directed by herself. Now, during the first part of this, I want you to go ba-dum-bum-bum, ba-dum-bum-bum. You know, like it's drums, okay? Good. During the war between the states, many a story one relates of bravest heroism under fire. They tell of Emmeline Sue, who helped a Yankee to get through, while she perished in a fatal death so dire. While her lover got away, she held her southern cousin at bay, distracting him with entertainment while her northern lover's train went.
Hey, that's a good rhyme. Did you make it up?
She'll break the mood. Keep drumming. Oh, Cousin Willis, don't you worry none about that Yankee. Why don't you stay and have another mint julep?
Okay, honey, I think I will.
Now stop drumming and start humming like there's distant singing. Distant, distant. Good. Oh, Cousin Willis, do you remember the good old days when I used to sing for the family at night?
Why, sure, honey. Why don't you sing for us right now?
Okay. The Yankees escaping! Shots, shots, shots!
Bang,
Run,
bang,
Yankee!
bang,
Run!
bang,
I love you! No, Cousin Willis, the Yankee escaped. But just remember when this holocaust is over, that this nation of the people, by the people, for the people. I was a shoe-in, a shoe-in, a shoe-in winner from Mississippi. Who wouldn't say yes? They may have gotten a surrender from Robert E. Lee, but never, 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 never from me. Never!
A warm and entertaining salute to a wonderful composer named Jule Styne. This is his book. It's all documented, as are all of your friends here who congratulate you and thank you for all the terrific moments you've given us on
Thank you,
Broadway,
Merv. It's been
records,
wonderful. And Ethel.
sheet music.
Thank you,
Thank
Dave.
you all.
Thank you, Jule.
Marvin.
We'll see you on Monday from Hollywood. Thank you. Promotional consideration paid for by the following. Today's your Brute Day. Great days seem to happen more often when you're wearing Brute by Fabergé. After shave, after shower, after anything, Brute by Fabergé. Magic Chef. The name you've known in cooking is now on refrigerators, freezers, dishwashers, compactors, washers, and dryers. Now more than ever, Magic Chef takes the work out of homework. Polyglycoat Textile Sealant. Miracle Stain Repellent invisibly protects, waterproofs, and beautifies your car's interior. Polyglycoat Textile Sealant, available at new car dealers. This has been a